Good morning and welcome. I'm Bob Pace, your host for live podcasts about how to fight CPS and also get your children back. The family is very important to me. I'm a family man, family father. I have six children, three older and three younger. Also have a wife of 32 years. And um, Unfortunately, in my life, at my golden years, I encountered a government entity called the Child Protection System. In California, it's called the Child Protection Services. But when I refer to CPS, I refer to the Child Protection System. And it's very important that every state knows there is a different name, like in Arizona's Department of Children's Services. In other states, it may be a Bureau or Family Services. So when I say CPS, I mean the Child Protection System. I'm broadcasting from Southern California, and again, I want to give a warm welcome to you all. You found me on Facebook, How to Fight CPS. I'm broadcasting on YouTube using the StreamYard application. I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day, at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific Standard Time for 1 hour. One day, Sunday, every Sunday, I come on at 8 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour Pacific Standard Time. And then all the evenings, I'm on at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 7 o'clock in the evening. And That's 14 shows. Now, before we get to start to talking, what I want to do is talk about ways that you can interact with the room. The first way is by you being in here listening. That's one way of interacting. I have right now several listeners listening in, and that's great. I appreciate it. You don't have to do any more than that. Hopefully, there's something that I can share with you that will help you. Another way you can interact with this podcast is you can type in comments. Now, I put a display tag there for comments. When typing in the comments, it should be about a CPS question. We're in this room for the talk about the child protection system. It's a government agency that's mandated by law to protect our children from abuse and neglect, and also bring the family back together with family unification. It's been found numerous studies showing that are the best, the biological parents are the best parents for their children. So there should be all efforts made by the child protection system to bring the family together, to bring the family together. Now, when you type in a comment, please show your name, city, state, or country. And when I say country, yes, there are countries that text messages in here that are having CPS issues themselves. I welcome everybody from around the world. We have about 13 countries. We have Bangladesh and India, and then in Africa, we have a South Africa province, um, and then we have um, uh, there's a little bit of a wind blowing, which is nice because it's hot. It's hot everywhere in the country, so it's nice. So in the continent of Africa, besides South Africa, we have Mozambique, which is on the east side of Africa, opposite Madagascar, down from Somalia. And It is also text comments in. We have Rwanda, which is in Central East Africa near the big lake of Victoria. And Rwanda had a horrible situation in the 90s where mass amounts of people were slaughtered. I'm talking to 1 million people, and 400 women were raped. It was a sad tragedy. Children were mutilated, and children were um, abused and everything else. They were trying to wipe out. It was all black. It was not about race or religion. It was about people with differences. but they've called in too. In Northern Africa, we have Liberia, a guy named Archie. He has a scouting program he is proud of. He's involved in scouts. Um, that's boys and girls because now girls are part of Boy Scouts of Boy Scouts, and so they now call it scouting. So, and then we go up to Europe. I've had England, Scotland, Wales, the United Kingdom, and then I've had Denmark and Sweden. Now, if we go to North America, we have Canada on both sides. They've texted in several times, and then below, Canada, we've had our 50 states, including Washington D.C., have all called in one city or another. It's been over 500 people I've talked to since October, and then we go to Mexico, and I've had people actually had someone call in from Mexico trying to locate their family. And then I've had South America, and I have Guyana, which is on the coast opposite Venezuela in the east and north of Brazil. They have a big coastal town called Georgetown. So I've had um, Guyana text questions in, and then in the South Pacific, the land down yonder, I've had Australia call the text message, and they too. It's interesting with the CPS in the countries and the CPS in the states. They all have something in common. The social workers are bad. I mean, 99% of the social workers that I've um, heard from people that are involved in them say they're bad. Mine was bad too. Mine was bad too. And I've had two social workers on this show, which is nice. I had one a couple of months ago named Carol from Maryland, and she had a clinical psychology degree, and she said that she was trained for 6 months in the state of Maryland, which is hard to believe because the people from Maryland were telling me something different, but she was very nice and pleasant. She was shocked that what I was saying about how CPS is so bad and doesn't believe in family reunification. um, Another social worker who's a third party social worker who did work for the child protection system recently called in and shared her experience, and she agreed me how bad that CPS become, and that's one of the reasons why she stopped working for them. It's sad. It really is sad that worldwide and the U.S. wide that CPS is so bad. And if you want to know how bad, I'm going to tell you in a second here, but I want to tell you another way. Oh, also, it's important to be complete with your CPS case. Try to start at the beginning about your family makeup. Is it a two-person household, like a husband, wife? Are you divorced? Are you single parent? Are you a partnership? Are you lovers? Are you girlfriend, boyfriend? What is your relationship with your family? And then what's the story of your children? Do you have one children with many different fathers or mothers? I mean, do you have several children with different fathers, different mothers? Are they all the same father? Are the fathers involved? Are the mothers involved? What is your family situation? That helps me a little bit to understand. And then uh, how, what were the allegations that brought CPS involved with you? Were there neglect or abuse or both? And what was the degree of the allegations or the abuse? And um, and then that and then were the children, did they come to your home or did you go to their office? Did you see them outside? Did you surrender your children? Did you give permission for them to enter your home? Did you not let them enter the home? These are things that helps me understand the situation. Did they take your children and were they in extreme danger? Were they in extreme danger when they took your children? Were they placed with family, next to kin? Um, you know, where are they? Are they immediately trafficked into foster care or stolen or whatever the case may be? So that'd be helpful to tell. Also, I need to know where you're at in your case. Are you just starting out, or you've been going for some time? What's the next court date? Try to be complete with your CPS case from start to finish, and that way I don't have to play ping pong ball with you. I ask a question, you answer me, and then back and forth, it goes back and forth, and then 20 minutes later, we finally got to your story. So if you could share that with the room, that would be great. Again, if you don't feel like talking, don't feel you have to. If you don't feel like you have to give your name or city or location, that's fine too. I just do that for reference so I know where the CPS cases are coming from. Hey, Archie, I was just talking about you. Yes, it is good evening in Africa. I'm watching live from Liberia. It's been a while due to my work engagements. Thanks for the continued support and awareness. As I told you, there's Archie Man. He's from Liberia in Africa, and he comes on every so often. He's a fine man, and he's come to this room in here. So I'm glad to have uh, Archie in the house. So if you have a question, Archie, don't hesitate to tell me what your question is. Now, now you can. I'm going to see if I can get some other people that the notification lately has been really, really, really bad. So I'm going to try to see if I can get some other people here. I'm trying to reach Faye. Okay, I just wrote to Faye to tell her that I'm on. She's from Richmond, Kentucky, and she is a wonderful uh, mother. She's trying to get custody of her 22-year-old son, not cars. I'm sorry, guardianship. He's a special needs kid, and he needs to be taken care of. She lost her daughter. She had to choose between her son or daughter. CPS was so bad. She was in foster care in and out 5 times as a young child. And then when she grew up and had children, they remembered her and then came after her. That's the bad thing about foster care. It's really, 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 really bad. I don't know how else to tell you that, but it is. Um, I'm also reaching out to Nadia, who's from West Hollywood, California, south of Los Angeles. And she had her children taken early on, and she's been listening and trying to help out. She's also called in and so forth. And then I have my missing co host, Daniel Waugh from Georgia. So I've invited several of my friends who are regulars in here and so forth. So I'm pretty much, let's see, we were talking about comments. That's right. And so we've talked about comments. Now, a third way to interact with this podcast is to be a guest on my show. I would love to be a guest on your show. I mean, on my show. That way you can talk like me and we can share and help other people. To be a guest, all you need to do is email our show producer. Her name is Grace. She works behind the scenes, helps me with my podcast, and I'm very thankful for her. She will help you get on the podcast. Um, she'll give you the link to StreamYard and tell you what to do and what not to do, like no eating, no smoking. And um, all you have to do is pick a date and a time, evening or morning, Monday through Sunday, and you tell her in the email. Now, the email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. Grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. So, again, to interact with the podcast just by being in the room as a listener is one way. A second way is to text comments um, about your CPS question. A third way is to be scheduled as a guest. Now, the fourth way to be on this podcast is to call in my phone number. That's my office number. It's 626 698 0990. So I'm taking calls now. I have Vonage on my phone, which is the office application they use to do phone calls. So if you're familiar with Vonage, that's what will answer the phone. And I've double checked to make sure that it's all squared away. I've texted several people, it's worked, and to make sure my sound's up. Yep, sounds up. And I'm all set to go. All set to go. And so let me see here. Now I'm trying to make sure no one's been left out. We had one call on Friday. Yeah, good. Let them know. See. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Okay. So I pretty much have contacted everybody that's called in and left a message. I don't think I've left off anybody. Okay, there's another one with the message. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so the phone's all squared away to take phone calls, so I'll leave the number up and I'll go back to the room. Archie, since you're the first one in the room, is there anything you like to ask me or anything you want to know here about the child protection system or how it does it in your neck of the woods? That is Archie I put up there. Again, he's from Liberia. Um, it's nighttime. They're having their dinner there. You know, for all you listeners out there, if you want to interact, you're perfectly welcome to do so, but you don't have to. Now, I have four rules that I talk about that I should have followed in my CPS case, and I didn't, and that's one of the downsides of things. I can talk about the rules. I can also have topics like a lot of you may not know the ICWA. the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. It was an act that took almost 100 years to help protect our Native American Indian children. For so long, the Native American Indian children, these are the first immigrants to North America. They came on the way of Siberia through the land bridge, through Alaska, then down through Canada and into North America and settled. We from Europe were pushing to go settle in North America too. We were escaping religious persecution and looking for a new way of life. Some of us were in trouble, and it was a new beginning. And we have what we have today, a country that's almost 250 years old. It's the United States of America, but we have an agency, the Child Protection System, that has gone corrupt, that's gone rogue. And what I mean by that, they look at money, and money sometimes be the source of evil. The reason why CPS take the children almost all the time when they come out to investigate your home is because they get money. In my case, my children, they were paying $20,000 per month. The state was. The state gets the money from the federal government. It's an $80 billion business that the child protection system does. $80 billion is more than the money they give to Ukraine to fight the war against Russia. So it's uh, it's really amazing that they spend that much money to take our children. They give social workers benefits and stipends and bonuses for them to take our children, to alienate our children, to traffic our children to foster care. The social workers are bad, and I can give you a couple examples of some bad social workers. You probably have ones yourself, but one of the worst ones I've seen are the pink ladies from Prescott, Arizona. In Prescott, Arizona, there was a county there of the child protection system. They call theirs the Department of Children's Services, DCS. Now, DCS is really a, I mean, it is a child protection system. And so DCS um, has taken the children, um, well, no, they take it, I'm sorry, they made T-shirts. These were called the Pink Ladies, and these ladies were 8 white social workers, and they decided to buy pink T-shirts and they put a stencil on them. The stencil read, "Professional child kidnappers, professional child kidnappers." With that being said, that was the image that they were portraying. And on the back, they said, "Do you know where your children are at?" On the back, that stenciled, "Do you know where your children are at?" And that is a gross, power thing that they did. They paraded around to walk around Costco, Target, Walmart, all the big department stores to make people feel uncomfortable. And they did this in a threatening way. I mean, if you see the stencil of a lady there walking towards you with the name Professional Child Kidnappers, you wonder who is this group and how could they get away with it? Well, they didn't get away with too long. The next day, they were terminated as well as the director. So that whole child protection agency was shut down except for one person who happened to be a man who didn't take part in that. The sad part is our children are not being protected from abuse and neglect because these guys are gone. That was 25 years of experience. So that's one example of how corrupt social workers are. If they can do that and not feel guilty about what they did, then that really worries me. Another example, just recently, was a social worker in Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, put on her Facebook page an ad. This is an old time ad over 140 years ago. It was 10 years before the Civil War, 1848, and the ad said, "Black children for sale." I can't use the exact verbiage of it because there's community standards, but they use the N word, and that is wrong. That is wrong. They said black children for sale. She posted on her Facebook, very proud that she did that, and she's a social worker. On top of that, I found out that she's black. So why would a black social worker post an ad, "Black children for sale," in the year 2024? I thought we're beyond that. I thought when the Civil War was over, we all became cognizant that black people weren't a piece of property to sell and to abuse or use. So I really um, am appalled or surprised. But again, that's your MO of your social worker. Now, a third case also happened recently. I'm trying to bring recent cases. This was a viewer on my podcast who came to talk about her family involvement with the CPS system. And what happened there is that her daughter was at school, middle school. Her mother thought she was safe at school, but apparently there's been an investigation going on with possible neglect or abuse by the parent, the mother there. So they went to the school unannounced to talk to the daughter. The daughter was 13 years old, and the man that went out to investigate her represented himself from the CPS case there, and he talked to the school and said, "I'd like to interview one of the students there." Welcome, Alicia Sparks. She's from Bakersfield, California, and CPS did her son's girlfriend, both 14, and lived with us last June. I'd love to hear more about your question, Elisa. So, anyway, this CPS worker asked the school that he wanted to speak to the girl alone in a room. Well, you don't do that with minors. Anytime you're involved with school children activities, you always have a two parent or two adult um, um, two important rule to be there because you could be accused of things. Well, this guy was bad, so bad. They asked her. He didn't have any. He wanted to be alone, so he told the school didn't need the nurse or anything. There, he asked her to disrobe, to take off her top. And here's a 13-year-old exposed to this pedophile, while he takes pictures and uses the guise of the child protection system. This is how bad CPS social workers are. Well, the daughter told her mother that she had to take her clothes off for a strange man. She felt weird about it, which is true. So the mother called the CPS and they investigated and fired him right off. He was a pedophile. He's somebody that escapes it. In fact, a lot of pedophiles hang out at child protection. A lot of sex addicts hang out at the child protection system. And so it's not safe. It is not safe for your children. So this daughter's been scarred. You can imagine what a 13-year-old that takes off her top to a stranger feels. Well, she did complain to the CPS. They removed him, but a friend of his who worked in the same department, been schoolmates since when they were real little, decided to retaliate against the mother. So she was able to put a claim in that her son, she was abusing her son sexually, who originally had been charged abusing his daughter, the same daughter that had to disrobe. So this whole thing has gotten quite messy. The school has done nothing to help. The school is responsible. They shouldn't allow strangers with their children, let alone if the school is going to do that, they need to be present. A nurse has to be present, and taking off someone's clothes is not recommended. That's wrong. That's wrong. That definitely is a perverted individual. So the mother called the police department. They said there's nothing they could do. She was on her show. She talked about it. She's fighting now sexual charges by her son. Her son is locked up in a special jail um, forgot where her son is. I think her son's 15 years old, accused him sexually with his daughter of 13. And so he's awaiting. And it's just these allegations are so lame. I don't know if most of you know that allegations can be made by lay people or professionals. Now, a professional has to do it by law. If they're a school teacher, a nurse, a policeman, a fireman, somebody that has to sign. I mean, they have to test by law that if they have to report child abuse, they're usually pretty good and right to the point about it. But the lay people sometimes use it uh, as alternative measures, meaning they want to get back at somebody. Your neighbor dog barks excessively, so you decide to call CPS, report his child is left out in the yard with no supervision. The CPS comes and finds out that the person they called has no children. So they do this all the time. In my case, I was accused of neglect with my children. And what happened? My case was a horrible case. My in-laws, my wife's parents, and her brother and her sisters, all called in on us, and that was shortly after I lost my job through no fault of my own when I was at age 60 in 2010. And for 5 years, these parents, these lay people, would call in every week and make up a story. So for 52 weeks a year, 5 years, I would constantly meet the social workers. And they were trying to find something, but they had like a vendetta or something they want to go. So it was really sad. It was sad. Um, um, so what happened was is that the uh, the relatives, my in-laws, were making stories like they don't they're not feeding the kids, they don't wear clothes, they don't go to school, they don't take showers, their rooms are a mess. And I let the social workers in my home. I did not know about the rule number 3, where you don't allow social workers in your home. I did not know that. I did not know that. So I let them in my home. There's nothing to hide. And I had a beautiful home. It was a 2-story, very wealthy home, close to beach, with private CC&Rs. It's a private neighborhood. And so um, each kid had their own bedroom, kitchen, so forth. Well, every time they'd come, I would show them the paperwork, my school's kids' school records or grade reports, the utility bills. I show them the refrigerator full of food, the cupboards full of food, where the meals were prepared, and where they could eat. And at that time, the house was really nice. What happened was, after 5 years, I guess for some reason they decided to get involved with the police, and so the police sent out a detective to follow me. I cannot believe to this day what they were trying to say or find me, because they didn't say anything. That's one thing. They are looking for something, and so um, unfortunately, just that recently, about 2015, my parents were well, my parents died, and I had their belongings in the house, which added a clutter effect downstairs. I was very organized. I had boxes on top of boxes and furniture on top of furniture, but it was an area in the living room which was not visited by the kids. The dining room was vacant. The kitchen breakfast nook was vacant. The kitchen, the family room, the hallways, there's a travel way. There was nothing that was blocking the kids from getting around. Nothing was up in the room. But they wanted to see my home. And so this detective tricked me, got me there, and had me fall had me followed to go home. Now I don't know. Excuse me. Gotta drink something here. Um, they didn't find anything. They didn't tell me anything, and They're very deceptive. So when I got home he asked me to to go home. So I went home, and in front of my yard was standing the three social workers, five firemen, two code enforcement, two uniformed policemen, and of course the detective. And why all these people? They're on the hunt, and I did not realize it. I should have told them, said, I'm sorry you guys come in here, but unless you have a warrant, you can't come into my residence. And I did not know that law. I did not know that constitutional right or have an attorney present. I could have said, I can't go further to my attorneys here. And so um, they went on the hunt. The reason the fireman was there, they're trying to find me if I broke a code that would not keep the children safe, such as the smoke alarms weren't mounted right, or they were not functioning, or the fire extinguisher was not up to date or not charged or anything. They were looking for something. The code enforcement was looking for, did you have a lock on the back door of the pool? Was there a gate around the pool? They looked at everything, looked at my yard, they looked at my gate, and they said one thing they did find is that my bolts holding the gate were loose. They need tightening, which is nothing more than putting a wrench on there and tighten them down. That's no big deal. They did mention my yard was shaggy, and I said, well, I don't have the money to have my landscaper trim my yard up. So, with that being said, uh, they were nitpicking. They were trying to find something there. And of course, they saw the belonging of my family, and that's what got me in trouble. They said, well, that's neglect. You can endanger your kids by one of those boxes falling them. I said, my kids are big. They're 9, 12, and 15. They're not that small. They're not infants. And it isn't in their way of travel or anything like that. But they decided, not only that, did he know that they thought that was extreme danger and they removed my children from my home that day? They took my kids. And like a fool, I should have said, do you have a court order? These are all the things I don't know. My rule number 3, you have to have a court order to come in your home or take your kids or search your home or talk to you. You're not required to talk to social workers. You're not required to talk to policemen. And I was like a fool opening up everything. I was blabbing my mouth off and everything. So that was the mistake that I was making. And I'm trying to tell you, that's the kind of social workers. They were so bad. They trick you. They're not transparent. They lie. They bring you up and they bring you down. In fact, the social worker assigned to my case was a young girl, under 25. She didn't have a college degree. She had no social work classes. She doesn't even know what the parenting classes were or how to do family reunification. She had no mentor. I don't know if she even had a high school education, but here she is, trusted with our life. And she didn't know what family unification was. And so when they removed my children, I let them. And again, I was a fool. I should have fought that. But they were put into a foster shelter. It was a block home. It wasn't very inviting. And it was right next to the juvenile prison. And the juvenile prison yard and the children's yard were next to next. And they could have very well interacted with the prisoners. So, what kind of protection is that? The food was horrible, it was overcrowded, and their play area had bee infested beehives that could sting the children. So that was their idea of protecting my kids from imminent danger. In fact, the CPS put my kids in imminent danger. It was wrong for them to do that. The food was horrible. And then on top of that, their daily school was to read a book to them. Now, my kids, one was in a private school, and the other two were in really good public schools, and they were leaning that way to go to the private high school. And so they were in the STEM program where they took a science class, a technology class, engineering class, and a math class. That's what the STEM program is all about. Um, so this social worker really was giving us a hard time, and they went from the, the foster care shelter to a foster care group home. And it was run by Boys Town. And Boys Town may be good about uh, kids without parents, but when you have two loving parents, they actually were destroying our kids about loving our parents. So, with that being said, it's unfortunate that the social worker got worse. During our trial, she was being cross examined by our attorney. I did eventually hire an attorney, my rule number one, which is Vincent W. Davis. And like I waited too late because by the time I hired him, the damage had been done. But anyway, uh, my attorney was cross examining the social worker on the stand. And what was happening was that my wife's sister was trying to adopt our daughter. And we didn't want that to happen. So my attorney, was cross examining the social worker, and he asked the social worker, "Has has my wife's sister husband ever had domestic violence?" And the social worker very proudly said, "Oh no, no, no domestic violence. They're really great parents." Well, then my attorney, Vincent Davis, whipped out some documentations from the police department of the numerous domestic violence cases that they were called to investigate. So the answer to the question, she lied. They will lie. She lied so bad, and she felt so embarrassed because she felt that she was caught in their lie. And our attorney's good. So that rule number one, you need to really talk to Vincent Davis, and he can be reached at 888 It's on my screen. And you just tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and when you speak to Mr. Davis, tell him Bob Pace sent you. He'll do a meeting with you for 30 minutes for $60. That's 30 minutes for $60. It'd be well worth your time, even if you don't want to hire him. And he has 35 years of experience. So the social worker was lying, and then she had the gall to tell the parents, "Hey, Waby Maccabee, welcome. And I have no idea where you're from, but if you'd like to share that, that'd be great. Just need your city, state, or country." So far, we have Archie Mann from Liberia, Africa. We have Alicia Sparks from Bakersfield, California. And I've been talking about uh, my own personal case, the kind of social worker. So she wanted to retaliate. She said to us parents, "You're never going to see your daughter again." We did not know, but she conned our daughter, 12 years old, to do the following: divorce your parents, change your name, steal your birth certificate, and be adopted to a foster care family. She did all that. And at 12, no child knows how to do all that. The social worker helped her. So that's the kind of social worker I've told you about. The pink ladies. I've told you about the one running the ad for black children. I've told you about the one that the pedophile was taking pictures of a girl who's investigating. Now I'll tell you about my social worker doing revenge. They are like that. You can be here if you want. Okay. If that gives you more space, you can be right here if you want. Okay. So, um, everybody's great. Waylon Maccabee. I have no idea where you're from, but be nice. Alicia Sparks, if you want to talk about your case, um, looks like CPS, something about your son's girlfriend. Both are 14 and lived with us last June. I don't know. Let me see. You have to be. Um, I don't know if it's a good idea to have the girlfriend live with the son if they're separate, because I think the state of California you have to be 18. Minors can be together, but anyway, that's an interesting case, Elisa. So I've given you many examples of what kind of social workers are out there. Mine was a horrible case. Because I had my parents' belongings, I was charged with neglect, and my children were put in danger. They're alienated. and they were abused in foster care. The group home, my younger son was deprived of orange juice, and my older son was scolded doing his homework late at night, and they take away points. They had a point system, and it really demoralized my young son. So I'm telling you that the CPS and the foster care system is broken. It does not work. There are attempts made by foster care people, and I've heard them on the show here. I've had some people talk about foster care. So I know that there's agencies out there that do attempt to try. I imagine there's good social workers. I met two of them on my show. So it's not all bad. But the majority of social workers out there, and it seems lately that their intent is to get that money. To get the money, they have to take the children in there. They prey on people. They're low income. They're not very well educated, and they have no family support, meaning that there are no relatives. It's interesting. If you've been in foster care as a small child, later on when you have children of your own, they'll come after you. They'll come after you. I've had several moms in here. They're once in foster care, and then they'll come after you again. So it isn't safe with the kinds of social workers. Remember, they're not transparent. There's no watchdogs. Right now in Richmond, Kentucky, there is missing over 900, almost $1 million is missing in Kentucky, is unaccounted for, and they're investigating Kentucky for a lot of reasons. And I don't know. I just met the governor on the, he's running for the um, vice presidentship for the Democrats, and boy, he talks about the wrong thing. Their police department is so infected and so corrupt. There've been arrests made with the police department. But anyway, again, I remind everybody that I'm glad you're in here listening to the podcast. That's one way of interacting. The second way is to type me comments, which some of you have. That is great. A third way is to be a guest on my talk show. And a fourth way is to call in. My phone number's been up there for a good 45 minutes. And you can call in at 626 698 0990. And I'd be more than happy to share you with the podcast. And so if anybody has any other questions, I mentioned about the WICA, the Indiana Welfare Act, WICA. Uh, that was an act that says that CPS must turn over the children if the children are registered of one of the 547 federal recognized Indian tribes in North America. There are 547 tribes, and I'm not talking about the tribes in South America or Mexico or all the other places in the world. I'm talking about the North American Indians that came over via the land bridge, the first immigrants, long before the Vikings came. And then we had other people after the Vikings have had the Europeans come too. Vikings are Europeans, don't get me wrong. They're from Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. They're proud people, and it's amazing, this country. We have so much freedom, and we have so many good people in it, but it seems like uh, we are really going backwards. I don't know. Um, so ICWA is the Indian Welfare Child Act, and that tells the CPS worker must contact the tribes to see if the Indian children are registered or could be registered. And you parents that are Indians need to notify the tribe that you got an Indian child. What they do is they put the children with the Indian tribe, and the tribe puts them with Indian families and brings back family reunification. They're not in there to take the money or anything like that. They're for the Indian child and the Indian family. They believe in families. They believe in families that are together. That's one thing the Polynesians and the Indians are very good culture because they take care of the families. They have the families. Even Europeans, the mother and father lives with the son or daughter because they believe in families. So uh, that's important there. Another thing to keep in mind when you first are taken, your children are taken, there's got to be a plan where your children are placed next of kin. You got to make a list of all the family members. If they're out of state, that's okay. They cannot force you not to take them there. So um, I uh, I want you to make sure that you ask for a family plan. They don't have to be put in foster care. They need to be put in with, uh, your sister, your brother's family, or something like that, where they can stay for a while because you're going to need some time to take parenting classes and do all the things they'll come up with and fight them. And that leads me into how do you fight them best? It's with the attorney. That's the only way that you're going to get through there. My rule number one is you need to fight them with an attorney. And I have an attorney. He's a good one. He produced this podcast, and he was my attorney. And his name is Vincent W. Davis. I mentioned him several times, but uh, he has his own podcast. He knows how to deal with people, and he's a people person. He's a family man. And so you can contact him by calling in at 888-888-6582. And when you reach the office number, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And then when you speak to Mr. Davis, tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Now, below um, the numbers, my number and the office number, my office number and the office number for Vincent Davis, there is a little scrolling that's happening, and that is a web link that you can go to for consultation with Attorney Vincent Davis. You just type in Candely, CALENDLY.com /law office VWD /Bob Pace. And when you do so, um, it'll take you to his calendar and you'll see what days he's available. But he'll talk to any one of you. He wants to talk to you. It's 60 minutes for $30. Excuse me, 30 minutes for $60. It's $2 a minute. And he'll talk to you about how to navigate in CPS. He has 35 years of trial experience. He's a trial attorney. He has been fighting CPS. He has won cases against CPS. He has had the children returned. And he fights in Southern California as well as Northern California and all the 50 states. So he tries to help out everybody. When you talk to him, even if you don't hire him, you can get valuable information of how to get your children back or how to do custody or lots of things, legal matters he knows about. But here he is. He'll talk to you for 30 minutes for $60. And either call the phone number or do the Candly, CALENDLY.com uh, /law office VWD /Bob Pace. Now, um, I got Vincent Davis, but it was a year later. It was sad because he could have stopped my daughter from being brainwashed and thinking that she needs to leave her parents. But um, anyway, um, I use an example. If you're going to have open heart surgery, would you have a lay person or yourself open your heart up? No, you're going to get yourself a doctor, a heart specialist, someone who's been to medical school, did an internship, got a license, and did a mentor before he started opening up your heart. That's what CPS is. It's just as tricky as open heart surgery. And so you certainly want to go there. Now you're going to use your court appointed attorney. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but keep in mind that they usually have a caseload of 30 or more clients. And then on top of that, they are not there really to fight your case. They're looking for an easy way out. There's no motivation for them. And on top of that, you lose your rights to talk in court. You have to sit outside. Because when you're represented by an attorney, it's your attorney that does all the talking. You have to do the listening. And that's hard for a lot of us to do it. I sat outside the whole time, and that was terrible. I hated that. And my court appointed attorney, she was bad. She was bad. She make you sign things with false promises. So in all, you need to hire a professional juvenile family dependency lawyer. That's the area you're in. You're in dependency law, juvenile and families, dependency law. That's what you want to look for. And that's what Mr. Davis has. In fact, he's done civil lawsuits and beaten CPS both at the federal and the state level. So get an attorney and make your life better because you'll need one. This is open heart surgery. So they're very bad. They will lie to you. They'll break your heart. They don't care about family reunification or your child. It's just money to them. My social worker was terrible. I already told you about her. She's more interested in her Gucci purse that she showed every week, or her eyelashes and makeup and accessories, and her clothing and her BMW car. That's all she was interested in. And that's sad. Now, I mentioned about rule number 3 a bunch of times, and that rule is strictly you don't talk to social workers, and you don't let them in your home. Don't give them permission. There's only 3 ways to get in your home. One, you give them permission. Two, there's a uh, domestic violence going on, or there's hitting or shoving or hurting a child, they will come into your home. So will the social workers. Three is they need a court order, a warrant that is carried out in the court, signed by a judge with a wet signature and a raised um, embossed seal that you can fill in the paper that's raised. And then on top of that, it's very specific in the court order. They'll say the person's name that they're investigating or names. They'll say who the children are. They'll say what the allegations are. And they'll tell you the date and the time they can enter your home and what they can do when they're there. Can they interview you or talk to you or take your children or whatever the case may be? So it's very important that you don't let them in. Also, I try to tell people there was a gentleman the other night that was talking about how they're doing a welfare check. Be careful. A welfare check, you don't have to answer the door. A welfare check is a ruse to get into your place. So it's very important. Um, they will try anything to get in that home. They'll try anything. Also, be careful of medical trafficking. Medical trafficking is where you take your child to urgent care or to the emergency room because they have a high fever or something. There are social workers that work at that hospital that will try to take away your children. Maybe you're not taking care of them, or the doctor will say something is wrong or whatever. Also, if you're going to have a child and you're pregnant, be very careful because social workers are there. They're going to have you tested to see if you have drugs in your system. And if you do, they'll take your child away. So you don't let them. They have to have a court order in all those incidents. They have to have a court order which says they can take your child. So don't let them. Don't give them permission. I mean, if you're outside and you're talking to them, you can say something really simple that, hey, look, I can't talk any further. I need to do a timeout. I need to talk to my attorney. And that's a good way. That way, it'll give you some time to get an attorney or talk to an attorney that you may have. So I'm telling you, be very, 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 very careful of how you talk uh, to the social workers or uh, the police. Remember, it's no, 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 no. I don't know how else to tell you that, but don't talk to them. Don't let them take your children. and they have to be in imminent danger. This is so sad that they use anything as imminent danger. It's their SOP is to take a child from you right away. Hello, Christina Renoza. Um, Faye is, I don't think, in the room, but uh, she has a message for Faye. I will pass it on to her because I will talk to her after the show. She says her daughter told the doctor, Dad touched her at the hospital, so did my son. So there was the social worker. The next day, they were living with the accused. I never seen a CPS person. Wow, Christina, I'm so sorry to hear that. That your daughter told the doctor, Dad touched her at the hospital, so did my son. So where was the social worker? The next day, they're living with the accused. I never seen. I forgot what happened, Christina, but this whole thing is wrong. This whole thing is wrong. I'm so sorry. Well, my time is up. I've gone over my time. I didn't even look at the clock there, and I apologize. But thank you all for listening. Um, and um, I want to thank Christina. Please come on tonight early if you can. I'm on at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Uh, Waylon Maccabee, I have no idea where you're from, but please come back. Join me again tonight at 7. Alicia Sparks from Bakersfield, California. I want to hear more about your story and how they help you. Archie, thank you so much from Liberia. I know it's evening time, you're heading to bed. And thank you, all my listeners and all my people in the room. God bless you all. This is Bob Pace signing off.